It's been 2 weeks since I last recorded an episode. Oh, and those 2 weeks were they were something. Um, they were challenging, and they were lessons learned. That is all I can say. But recovery has been great. My injury was caused by a fall, but that is also all that I will say. Uh, your prayers were definitely answered for that injury because we didn't think I was gonna recover for at least 2.5, 3 weeks. And so it has been a week and a day, and it's almost completely gone, the injury. So I really appreciate the prayers that were said for it. Anyways, this week we are back on track. We will be talking about a peaceful place, which is very ironic. That first week that I said I needed a mental break, I was like, I can't talk about peaceful place when I'm not in a peaceful place. And so that was that first week. And then the second week, like I said, I got injured the day before that I was supposed to record. And I was in no shape to sit and record. So here we are talking about a peaceful place in a much better peaceful place. So, what comes to mind with a peaceful place? I know that it can be many things. It can be a mental place, it can be a physical place, it can be both. It can actually, I think those two things come to mind when I think of a peaceful place. Because in my own peaceful place, if you haven't guessed it by now, I'm very into my faith. And so I will keep repeating this because anytime I talk about the church or my Catholic faith, I bring this up. And so it's pretty unique, I believe, within my own unfolding of coming back to the faith. So I grew up in a church downtown. It's called St. Joseph's. If you don't know, I'm from Houston. And so St. Joseph's downtown, not the Baytown one, is the one that I grew up in. And so there was always a sense of serenity in this place. And I always remembered it having white walls everywhere and the pillars white, the stairs white, and then the pews, they were wood and brown. I mean, it was the most beautiful place to ever step into as a kid. And now, as an adult, I appreciate it so much more because it's as soon as I enter the church, we get settled, we sit down, and there's a serenity. I kneel when I go in and sit at the pews, and there's just this overflow of peace because I know that I have entered into the Father's house and I'm here to spend time with Him. And that, I think, makes it all so peacefully overwhelming for me because it's that effort of I'm pursuing the Lord. And so, anyways, with this church, it has stayed the same. So there are so many different structures of churches within the Catholic faith, but there is no difference within the masses, which is really beautiful. That's why the word Catholic means universal. And anyways, little fun fact for you. And there, at least at my church, it's called a traditional like layout of the church. There are modern, there are Gothic, there are Western traditional, I believe, traditional, and then a few others. I think there's even like an English French, which ties into Gothic. When you think of Gothic, you can think of Notre Dame. You can even easily Google these. But to go and experience them and sit in that place is just beautiful. And so I've been able to experience all of them except the Gothic one. I think I've had like subtle hints of one in Friendswood. Their church has like a very, very little small hint of Gothic. but it's considered English. So, anyways, getting into all those logistics, my home parish, St. Joseph's, their colors are just a reminder to me of the Holy Spirit. When I think of the color white, that is exactly what I think of, the Holy Spirit tied into that color. Because for many of us, the Holy Spirit is the dove. That physical image for us is the dove. And it is very beautiful. The dove is white. And so the church has white walls, stained glass, which I absolutely adore as well. And the pillars are white and have a little bit of gold on the tops. And every figure and image there is white. And so with the pews having wood, it just gives you a sense of St. Joseph. And growing up, I actually didn't know that St. Joseph would have such a huge impact in my life because I didn't really grow up with my dad. And so being able to be in a relationship with this saint without knowing was really something that I marveled at when I grew up and felt very loved and protected because he loved and protected Jesus as he grew up as a kid. So to be able to have that foster father in my heart and in my life, it was the most loving thing that God had ever provided me within a saint. And so now I just obviously really appreciate it here in my time in Houston. And he has just had this big devotion. I've had this big devotion to him now in my heart and stuff like that. So if you're curious about those things, please let me know as well. I love to talk about them. Moving on. This church, when I came back, was a sense of peace. But it wasn't until I appreciated the church that I started wanting to learn about the faith more and diving into it and figuring out why I was Catholic. Was my college church, Our Lady of Wisdom. There was green pews, brown walls, and there's with just those colors, I felt as though it was so humbling and so small compared to what I was used to. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a church? That's interesting because I was just used to growing up in a traditional layout of a church. And so being able to experience all these different churches, there's one thing that was very common in all of them, besides the Mass, is the Eucharist, which Jesus is present in. And so that was where I started to understand that it didn't matter how the church looked like or how it presented itself. I was there for Jesus. And so it does become hard because you get so accustomed to being able to be at your home parish. And you're like, I don't want to go to another one. I don't want to go to a different one. But if you move around and you don't stay in one spot, that's a little hard. And so that's how I felt about my college one because everything transformed for me there. But when I came back to Houston, it was like I never left. But there was a bigger appreciation for the church. And so this sense of peace that I feel has to do with just a surrender. Like a sense of surrendering myself within this place. There's quiet, there's your own thoughts, which I know a lot of people have a hard time being in silence with their own thoughts because it can become overwhelming if you've never done it. And so being able to do that and then knowing that God is hearing my thoughts and my prayers, it just brings me all the more joy. So going into this peaceful place, I want you to know that if you are not a churchgoer, you don't go every Sunday, you don't find peace at the church, there are other places and other things that can. But my one recommendation has always been, if you are in a place where you feel stuck and feel sad, obviously you turn to prayer in that moment. But if you can physically drive somewhere, I recommend a church, a chapel where you can sit and just be there, be present, no matter what you are going through. You're able to just bring in and be present, kind of ground yourself. At least that's how I have experienced the church. And so another one that I have experienced, because it was kind of given to me in my heart and mind as well, and by God, is that nature. I didn't grow up with nature per se, like the woods, hiking, camping type thing. So when I moved to college, I went to Texas State, and their nature is absolutely gorgeous. Just going and seeing the river, there's a sense of peace, so the way the river flows, and you can't help but look at it and be like, what in the world? Like, who created this? This is insanely beautiful. And it's a masterpiece. Like, there's just, I think that there's peace in nature because the creator, which is God, made everything in an order. And the only people, or the only thing that was disordered was us because of our original sin. But nature stayed the same. It follows God. It is in the order that He put originally within nature. So to have that and see that and experience it and put our feet in the grass and whatever you want to do with nature in that sense, there's a big rush of peace with that. And so the one example that I can give of actually being able to see it from my own eyes, that's not just me feeling that peace with nature, is my daughter. I had heard a lot that if your children get very fussy or aggravated within your home, take them outside. And I didn't believe it at first. I was like, well, if they're upset, that means they need something or are wanting something. And we've done it a few times, or we've done it a handful of times now. But the first time, I was so surprised. Going outside calmed me and her. Like, it kind of grounded our nervous system of panicking or crying or any of that sort. And so there's something with nature that I truly believe was order, is order within nature. And so San Marcos was that beautiful example for me. But because I wasn't used to it, part of me was scared to go into it. And growing up in city life, that wasn't also something that I did. And yeah, so nature and the church for me have been my biggest two. And if you don't have a peaceful place, I invite you to actually go and look for it. Whether that's within your home, which a lot of people can't find that. I have where I'm in right now, where I record my podcast, is our prayer room / office. At first, it was just going to be our prayer room. And then we were given a desk, and all our other rooms were occupied. And so we put it in here, and my husband does work on his laptop. So it was perfect. It was like a serene place to do our work as well. And then I got a desk and I got into the podcast and everything. So the room that I'm in, there's so many beautiful pieces of art that we have hung up that have a lot of meaning to us and just bring a sense of peace. So if you have that freedom to, not even a whole room, but just even very burpy today, just a corner in your house, in your bedroom, anywhere where you can put a little desk or a little nightstand type thing or a little table, anything, or even a chair like this, to where you can set it up and it's your peaceful place and you're allowed to go there and You can tell your husband or your wife, this is a spot that I need that time. I love you, but I need that time to kind of ground myself and come back and regulate myself. And so I don't believe that I do have the power to regulate myself, but I regulate it within God as well. So that's my forte on that. And being able to be in a place where the colors are a lot mellow. Nature has pretty mellow colors if you haven't seen. This room is gray, which for me is pretty mellow. Yellows, really like not bright yellows, but yellows, grays, whites, beige, light pinks, like a dusty rose type pink, I think. Those that aren't too much, like even really light purples, like this, like my phone case. Those are the colors that I believe do bring peace. And so if you're overstimulated or feel like you're about to have anxiety or go into a deep state of depression or anything of mental sort, go outside. That one always hits the spot. Always. Most always. Because it's a different environment. You're not inside your house. You're not inside a building. And so, yeah, those are my peaceful places. And I invite you to also just experience it, test out what brings you peace, where it brings you peace, and it will have the best impact on your mental health and well-being, because the people that you live with or the people you're around or your friends or your family, they will sense a difference within you, and you're bettering yourself for you. Like, you won't get as annoyed with yourself. I don't know if you've experienced that, but I have. I have gotten really annoying to myself at times, and I just need to step away and come back, ground myself. If those are the words that you resonate with. And like I've said before, mindset plays a big role. If you feed into the lies and the mind telling you, or it's not even your mind, honestly, it's the enemy. I will say that over and over again too. If you feed into those lies and you don't do anything to change it, to get out, to at least step out. Sometimes there's no words to even say to where you just need to step out and be. Those things will make a better impact. It will create a stable mind. Not a perfect stable mind, just a stable mind to where you can express yourself in this peaceful environment. And we all deserve a little bit of peace in our lives. And so, even Jesus went away and prayed, and that was where he found peace with his Father. And so, I hope that you're able to find a peaceful place. I would love to hear how that goes for you. If the church is a spot where you are going to now, great, amazing. Let me know. If nature's one of them, let me know about parks that you are going to, and maybe I can visit them. I would love that. Quick story, my husband and I went to a park today. We've actually been going to the park a lot more recently because I want that for my daughter. I want her to be able to go outside almost every day, and taking advantage because it's not as hot as it was in the summer. We went to a park today, and he had never been on this trail. He loves trails from San Marcos, but he was a little scared of this one because he was like, I don't know this trail. I was like, it's fine, we got it. And so my daughter fell asleep, and we were able to go down the trail, and it was like we were back in San Marcos for a bit. It was beautiful, and we saw deer. I was flipping out. I was like, I've never seen deer in Pasadena. And it was a really beautiful wink from God, basically, to me. And we saw it up close. We saw the female deer. She bounced. It was so funny. And then the male deer was going after her. So we think it was mating season or something like that. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. It was a quick little, well, not quick, but it was a little episode to kind of ease me to getting back into the rhythm of doing this weekly and being able to provide you a serene place to get to. So I hope to see y'all next week, and please keep praying for me on this recovery, that I'm 100%, hopefully as soon as I can be. So